Don't play it at home alone at night.
I think it's all about the zombies, I'm sorry to say.
This is the end of the world. This is a zombie apocalypse.
I was like so in love with the game that I really wanted to make it into a movie.
Video games offer a real experience of being in a situation that doesn't exist in any other medium. When you are doing a video game, it's really you there, and you really feel like you went through that experience.
Video games give fans an opportunity to be part of the story, and obviously it's interactive, and it's much longer. You can be part of a much longer narrative. And it's kind of a wish fulfillment fantasy thing, I think, for fans, that they can assume another persona and immerse themselves in a fantasy world. As gaming has become more sophisticated, and as gaming platforms have become more sophisticated, the games have evolved from being simply puzzles or shooters or fighting things into stories and to immersive worlds.
Okay, let me handle this.
Filmmakers live from everything, and they're going to lift from whatever source is really turning on the demographic that they're going for. Action!
The first to use video game technology is pretty obvious. It's Tron. I mean, it's really well known, and it's a complete cult film in our industry. Everyone that I work with loves Tron. Tron, I think, was completely playing off the idea of what you could do technically with video games, and also was the first idea where they said, we're going to make a movie and we're going to tie it in with video games, and they did that very effectively.
I made a movie called Mortal Kombat, and after that film opened at #1 in America, I got offered a lot of other adaptations of video games.
People in the video game business really like Mortal Kombat because it was probably the first movie that took a video game and made it, really made it happen on the screen.
Resident Evil was, it's a Japanese game, and in Japan it's called Biohazard. It's hugely successful. It's sold, I think it's something like 16, 17 million copies. And there are 5 separate Resident Evil games now. It really took like 2 months of my life. I just got obsessed with playing this game, and I didn't do anything other than that.
The thing about Resident Evil that makes it suitable for a feature film is that it is unpredictable. You do not know what is around the corner. Therefore, it will make it exciting to an audience in the cinema. It has at its center a true evil, and evil is always very dramatic.
This house is dangerous. There are terrible demons. Ouch!
The third thing is that there is something very personal about it. The experience of playing Resident Evil is like literally being in that mansion and having to fight all those mutants. It's not impersonal like it is in some of the driving games where you're simply trashing cars. This has more depth to it.
It's always been kind of seen as like a cinematic game, which always lends itself to the movie very well. And the movie, the great thing about the movie though was that it captured, pretty much what makes this game great.
I love the feeling of stillness about it, how it's just empty, and then you'll turn a corridor and suddenly be attacked by all these zombies, and it's something about that really I just found exciting.
I think what attracts me most about the game is the fact that once you get into it, it's just like being in a Hitchcock film because of the silence involved and the mansions and the quietness and the stillness of your surroundings, and knowing that there's zombies out there, and knowing that you're in the midst of danger all the time.
The first game has a set of characters, and then the sequel actually follows a completely different set of characters in a different location. They're not in a mansion in the woods anymore, they're in a nearby city, Raccoon City, which is all abandoned. when you look at all the games taken together, you know, it was a really wide range of characters in different locations following different storylines. And that kind of made an adaptation extra challenging because, you know, if you go and do an adaptation of Resident Evil 1, you risk alienating all the people who love Resident Evil 2 and the characters from Resident Evil 2. So if you're watching a straight adaptation of Resident Evil 1, the game, there's no suspense. You know who's going to live, who's going to die, you know what the story is. And I felt that would make a very unsatisfying adaptation because why not just go and play the game again? The idea I came up with was to do a prequel. In the very first game, you go into the woods and there's a mansion, and below it is a high-tech research facility. And it's all overrun with undead and mutants and creatures, but it's never really explained what's happened. You know, the backstory to that is never really explained. And that's what the movie does, is the movie kind of is the lead-up, is the prequel to the very first game.
The T-virus escaped into the air conditioning system, and an uncontrolled pattern of infection began. The virus is protean, changing from liquid to airborne to blood transmission.
And in that way, it stays very true to the universe of the game, and it also expands upon that universe. So in a way, it's almost like another game.
No pressure, guys. You require the 4-digit access code. I can give you the code, but first you must do something for me.
And that was our approach, was to try and develop the movie as though it were just another Resident Evil game. Although the setting's familiar to people who know the game, the story isn't familiar. So whether you're a gamer or a non-gamer, you're starting from the same level. You don't know what the hell's going on.